day 4 of Colorado's Community Risk Reduction Week 2021. The fourth E of Colorado's Community Risk Reduction Week is economic incentive. Economic incentives can be either positive or negative. On the positive side, they can be a coupon for smoke alarms or fire extinguishers, or tax incentives and insurance rate reductions for installing fire suppression systems. Negative incentives can be fines or penalties for noncompliance. Regardless of which type of incentive, money talks and people talk about money. The intent of community risk reduction is to encourage individuals and businesses to make choices to reduce risk, and economic incentives are one tool. In November 2020, the Federal Emergency Management Agency released Building Codes Save, a nationwide study. This study looked at the losses avoided due to natural disasters as a result of adopting modern hazard-resistant building codes. Those losses avoided could be over $32 billion by the year 2040 in communities that currently have modern building codes. The majority of the following information is from the study and the companion document, Protecting Communities and Saving Money. Building codes may seem as if they fall on the negative side of economic incentives, and they can. But modern building codes address many concerns, including public health and safety, resiliency, and affordability. Adopting and enforcing modern building codes make the community safer for all, and will mitigate or even eliminate the loss that can occur when a natural disaster strikes. Those eliminated losses are on the positive side of economic incentives. The frequency and magnitude of seismic and geologic hazards has been steady in recent decades, but the populations in these hazard-prone areas has continued to grow, which increases the risk. The increasing risk of a billion-dollar disaster has risen significantly in the last 3 years. From 1980 to 2015, the average number of billion-dollar disasters was 6 per year. From 2016 to 2018, that number increased 2.5 times to 15. 65% of the counties, cities, and towns across the United States have not adopted modern building codes. In Colorado, communities are not required to adopt building codes at all. This has resulted in different codes or even no codes in adjoining communities. Looking at this map, the states in blue have adopted the International Building Code, whether it is the most current, 2018, or an older code. The states in white do not have a statewide building code, but the local communities are allowed to adopt building codes at their discretion, which is what Colorado currently does. If you look closer, a lot of the states in blue have diagonal lines through them. This indicates that the state does not require all jurisdictions in the state to adopt or enforce the statewide building code. This map shows the states in blue which have also adopted the International Residential Code, whether the most current edition or an older but still modern code. States in blue with the diagonal lines remain about the same. There are a few more states in white than there was with the International Building Code, but again, these white states are similar to Colorado, with no statewide IRC adoption, and the local communities have the discretion to adopt the IRC or create their own building code. According to the FEMA study, over a period of 20 years, cities and counties with modern building codes would avoid at least $132 billion in losses from natural disasters, when compared to jurisdictions without modern building codes. These savings do not take into account the approximately 80% of buildings that were built prior to the year 2000 or the indirect losses, such as business interruptions, work time loss due to rebuilding, tax revenues lost by the local jurisdictions, etc. Some of these losses can take years for the community to recover. By adopting and enforcing the latest building codes, the overall benefit-cost ratio saving is $11 for every dollar invested in hazard mitigation construction. This benefit-cost ratio can be varied geographically and can be much higher in some places. The average savings realized in housing may be small per building, but given that approximately 80% of building inventories are houses, that adds up to real money, even in small areas. Hazard-resistant construction features that allow a building to survive a natural disaster are not expensive. Usually they only add a 1 to 2% increase in total building construction costs. As an example, in areas subject to flooding, For an additional 1.2 to 1.7% cost increase over standard construction costs, the ground floor can be raised and generate the freeboard needed to withstand most floods. In areas with high wind events or hurricanes, roof tie-downs, window covers, and other features can be added for a 1% increase, which will significantly increase the chance of a house surviving these disasters. How do we achieve the adoption of modern building codes? In the FEMA document, Protecting Communities and Saving Money, a basic roadmap is provided which gives some guidance and a starting point for achieving the adoption of modern hazard-resistant building codes. You need to build a team that is self-motivated and shares the same goal. The team should be public and private stakeholders in the community. Some of these include government leaders, the business community, and emergency management agencies. Create a strategy to reduce disaster risk within the community, where the new modern building code is one of several tools to implement this. Other tools would be urban growth management, improvements to infrastructure, and public information campaigns. These other tools may already exist, but they all need to be reviewed and be compatible with the disaster risk reduction strategy. Knowing what approvals are needed and the agency that will approve and issue them is critical. Identify all statutory requirements for getting each approval. Build a realistic timeline that includes a strategy for getting each approval. Develop the arguments for why the community should formulate, review, approve, and adopt modern building codes. There are toolkits available on inspect2protect.org and iccsafe.org, and the data available in the FEMA study Building Codes Save, a nationwide study, that can greatly assist with developing the arguments. Using the team from earlier, become the advocates for the adoption of the modern building code. Active encouragement of key decision makers within government to support a building code. Raise public awareness. Meet with the business community to gain their support. Have awareness and support presentations, in person and online, to promote the adoption of modern hazard-resistant codes. Use the International Code Council and other modern building codes to customize the new building code for the specific needs of the community. Many additional resources are also available for free on the internet. Adopt the code at level desired. If at the county or state level, allow the local communities to modify or strengthen the modern hazard-resistant building code to account for local conditions in their community. Building codes are a viable way to make the community more risk-resistant. The economic incentive may not be realized immediately, but in the long term, the loss avoidance will be noticed and appreciated by those who work and live in the community. Thank you for joining us for Community Risk Reduction Week 2021, and be safe.